Today we're going to be having a look at finishing off the generic AutoBlock crafters, getting them to work, implementing at least one, and if time permits, starting to look at the new research system. Todd and I had a long chat last night about the research stuff. This is going to be the research room, and I'm suspecting what a good idea is a number of what I would call diegetic displays. So what we can probably do is have the current research, time to the next subtle landing, what the current research will unlock. That's the plan. That's the plan for today. Whether or not the plan goes according to plan remains to be seen. Wednesday stream, where this machine now kind of works. Someone said that the game doesn't need this. Martin Bolt, you said what the game needs is a power source between pyrothermic generator and turbines. Also make use of all the ores currently unused in the game. Regarding the unused ores in the game, this was actually a specific design decision. One of the goals of Fortresscraft was, wherever possible, to avoid players recreating their worlds. Generic MultiBlock crafters, the reason that I'm implementing them is because this lets me add machines into Fortresscraft 2 with almost no work at all. A new machine in 10 minutes. Now, hopefully, I will not end up spending more time implementing a generic system than a bespoke system. This is something that has honestly happened a lot in the industry I've worked in, to write these massive data-driven systems. And I'm like, well, that will take 6 weeks. And I go, how much tweaking? Oh, only a little bit of tweaking. Like, well, how about we don't write a massive data-driven system? We just put magic numbers in, and you can sit with me, and we'll put the magic numbers in. But yeah, he said we want to do power source, and I had to point out that once this is done, like, I could do that. I'm not sure I agree. I've never felt any issues with the jump between infused pyros and turbines. Generally, turbines, they are quite a jump over infused pyro, so they feel great. And that's probably more important. Like, one of the things Fortresscraft does very well, and it doesn't do everything very well, but one of the things it does do very well, is there is a satisfying jump between each tier of stuff. You want something to be satisfying in the improvement, so you don't go, oh, I won't bother upgrading. I'm sure, I'm just trying to think, like, would we, if you've got a bunch of ingredients on a hopper and a conveyor, which one would you, which should it pull first? It has to do one then the other. It can't just do them all in a random order. I have to do one then the other. I can't really randomize the order of all the conveyors and then randomize the order of all the storage hoppers and then put them together in one big sort of mush. I think I will do conveyors just because conveyors look nicer, and it's if you've got a machine, it'll be nicer and it will look better to see the machine continually pulling in. Now, my recipe is set up to accept organic detritus. Now, this is a perfect example to explain why we don't use cube values. So when you dig up organic detritus, the colour of it is stored in the value. So all organic detritus is exactly the same, but the value varies. Now, in some machines, let's say, for example, these ones. I'm actually getting an error. But hopefully, when it works, we will have a machine that takes organic detritus and it will spit out other things. It's going all right, Peter, but because I've not touched the code base in a while and I've waded back into deep stuff, you might remember, what's the issue with dealing with cubes? So I've got plenty of notes throughout the code saying, don't use cubes, just use items. And that's fine. So when you pick stuff up, now we wipe the value, don't we? We no longer keep value on stuff. That was the issue, because when we dug up, like, coal, it had just a random value in it that more or less represented how much was in the original when we did it. But maybe I fixed all of those. Because there is no item of organic detritus. It's just a cube. Because I can make a machine that takes coal and spits out copper bars. I think it was when oreextractors directly interacted with other machines and they didn't wipe the value. Like here, this is done using different value. Oh man, that looks really good. But yeah, when I dig up all this stuff, it all ends up as organic detritus. It's not different types of organic detritus. It's always the same. Some more on. We should now have 4. Okay, so that's 4 attached conveyors with items. Oh, we're crafting. It's going. Hooray! I can't finish crafting. So the offload target, I'm not sure I'm going to support at the moment. So I don't think I only ever used it once. So generic AutoCrafters have the ability to only offload to a certain machine. I don't think I need to actually implement that right now. Essentially a useful thing for the Ampule Crafter. It's a pity. With the mod support, I put in so much stuff for modders. And I've not really seen many interesting mods. They're nearly all from Mad Vandal. His farming mod was amazing. Can't think of any games, apart from one, where mods have made the game more popular. And that game is Arma 2, where the mod Daisy was significantly more popular in the game. Other than that, a game sells 1 million copies, and of that, 10,000 people play the mods. No one buys the game for the mods. They might buy the game because they know it has mod support, but that's very hard to quantify. Dota? Oh, you mean a Warcraft 3 mod? Yeah, I guess. Well, no. Yes, I suppose you're correct. I suppose Dota is probably more popular than Warcraft 3 ever was. Blizzard were obviously very unhappy that League of Legends got away from them. So anything made in their map system for Warcraft 3, they get first dibs on. If I create something that makes $100 billion in your tool, you should get some money back for that. That's the same way that Fortresscraft does not allow people to run commercial servers for free. I've got Dota and League of Legends is separate? I can't remember. I assumed it wasn't quite so draconian and the internet would just been dramatic though. It basically means that. Let me translate. It does not mean that. Because they've removed Warcraft 3 from the list entirely. And now you can only get Warcraft 3 reforged, but you've got basically a toggle to make it look better. That's bonkers. That said to Dota guys, let's make an official Dota game. That's what they should have done. Right then. I said I used to work for Activision, and that's what they did. And I left there, thankfully, just before Fortresscraft came... Well, maybe thankfully. But I left there just before Fortresscraft came out. Because what you had to do is, if you wanted to release your own game while working for Activision, you were totally allowed, 100%. But you had to present it to Activision, and they had to decide they didn't want it first, because I worked for them. That was the agreement, that was the contract. And generally speaking, they said no, but it was just in case you had just come up with the new Tetris and the new Lemmings. And I know some people who work there, they were having to take like a week of their dev time out, their own private dev time, in order to prepare a presentation. Overall, if you are a mod author, and you are doing a game on Warcraft 3, and Blizzard went, should we make a commercial game out of this? Everybody would say yes. There isn't a person that's playing going, no. I don't want to sell my map. You'd be like, fuck yes, I would. If they had added a first refusal clause, that would have covered them for what they wanted, and quite importantly, wouldn't have pissed off the community. Activision do not tell Blizzard what to do. Blizzard are very, very much their own separate entity. It's what they're doing, is what they've always done. Blizzard have always been very, very good at making money. They also make very good games, but they also make money. Blizzard, hell, as you've looked into Warcraft, my god, Warcraft is the king of microtransactions. But they're microtransactions people want, so they don't get sulky about it. Didn't Blizzard offer paid gender change, character transfer, name change long before Activision came in? We'll charge you 75 quid to change this number in a database. Blizzard are an equal partner, as far as I'm aware, in the ActiBliz merger. It's like Diablo Immortal. A lot of people got very angry about Diablo Immortal. And they did make the point, well, we're not announcing Diablo 4. We don't know what we thought we were announcing Diablo 4. We're working on Diablo 4, but we're not. Diablo Immortal does not stop Diablo 4 development. And if you are to look with a more critical eye at everything Blizzard have put out recently, let me go back over them for you. They have a Team Fortress 2 clone that everybody loves. They have a Magic the Gathering clone that everybody loves. They have a Dota clone that everybody loves. They have an EverQuest clone that everybody loves. Blizzard consistently put out shit people love. If anybody can do a mobile ARPG that people love, it is absolutely Blizzard. How are people so like, oh, that won't work? Oh no, that never. Because I mean, Overwatch is absolutely a Team Fortress 2 clone. It's, you know, it's rebranded, it's reskinned, they've added this, they've removed that, but it's fundamentally Team Fortress 2. And they've done so well on it, and no one thought anybody could take on Team Fortress 2 and do so well. Oh, wait, that is working. They are away facing. Ha! Awesome. Other interesting words, and you've all heard the word dilemma. Di means two, as in dissect. Or you can also have a trilemma, which is a choice between three things, and a quadlemma, which is a choice between four things. But in this case, I only have a choice between two things. And I think there's a number of patrons in the channel, and as a rule, I listen to patrons more than I listen to normal people. From your point of view, what should I work on now? Bear in mind, there is a certain question mark over exactly how likely it is that I will have enough money to finish and ship Fortresscraft 2. Very much depends on how well Nomancer did. The idea of Nomancer was to make some money to finish Fortresscraft 2 with. So far, that's not happening. As an aside, if you do have Nomancer, please write a review. If you've written a review, please give a thumbs up to the other reviews. So, with that set in mind, Todd and mine's goal between now and April 7th, 2021 is to try and grow the patronage. That is an important thing to do, because growing the patronage means that we get money every month. When we sell Fortresscraft, we sell it once. That's a part of Fortresscraft's issue, is that there's no ongoing revenue. I am very interested in Stadia. I'm very interested in GeForce Now. I'm very interested in anything where people play my game on a streaming service and I get a proportion of their streaming money depending on how long they play my game for. Fortresscraft is a game where some people will play it for thousands upon thousands of hours. That is over a course of many months. I would receive far more money selling my game on a subscription service like that than I would in Steam. Patreon is a similar thing. It is an ongoing and monthly regular tick. So growing the patronage is very important to us. That's why I'm messing around with 3D printing to a very large degree, so I can say to patrons, I can offer you some unique stuff that we've 3D printed. And I should probably just snip this part as a question. Should I focus, not necessarily today, but over the next 2 to 6 weeks, should I focus on progression or visuals? Should I worry about making the game look as good as I can? So in screenshots, you're like, ooh, that looks good. Stuff like the marching cubes. Should I start to implement marching cubes for different things and integrate marching and non-marching cube arrays? Should I do more work on the map? Should I start working on the generic AutoCrafter visuals? Should I work on the gun mechanics? Should I work on the texture system? All of the visual upgrades? Or should I be focusing on gameplay features at this point? Should I be worrying about the ability to progress through Chapter 5? Should I be working on the new research system? The sad thing is, Fortresscraft has never had massively strong visuals. I would say it's better looking than Factorio, which is not hard. I'd say it's nowhere near as good looking as Satisfactory, which is also fair and would be difficult. But at the same time, Fortresscraft has also looked amazing. The Magma War, the OET, these things have looked incredible. So that is the worst cave ever. So there is some argument about that. Actually, I should be worrying about how it looks, because it can look good, and at this point, given how not playable the game is, for a while, having great screenshots, a great trailer is probably more important in order to making money. Look, sell, yeah. I wish that wasn't true. I wish I could argue that. I wish I could say, no, people aren't fooled by 8 days. For those of you who are old enough and British, you will remember when you used to buy a game for your Spectrum or whatever, and on the back there were all a bunch of screenshots, and you go, my God, look at that! And in tiny letters it would say, screenshots from the Amiga version. Mechanics are important, like the new fluid system, and graphics are important, like the marching cubes, which does look cool. It's not flawless, but it does look good. The landscape generation I could probably go back to as well. The UI turns off more people. What UI? You cannot say UI. There are 1,000 UI panels in the game, utilising about 10,000 UI elements. There is no such thing as the UI. When people give me very specific feedback, it usually gets fixed quite quickly. When you say the UI turns people off, which part of it? That's like saying I don't like your car. Why? The handling, or the way it looks, or the price, or the sound. It's too broad a brush. We had one guy came in, quote, cleaned up the UI. And I pointed out, he cleaned up the UI by stripping off all the information. So right now, my hotbar at the bottom, it shows me what item I'm carrying, how many, what the hotkey is, how much power I've got, how much power Arthur's got, and a little handy hint. And he stripped off all of that. And I was like, yeah, but now I don't know how many I'm carrying. It's not actionable. If you said to me, I really don't like it when you bring up a storage hopper, that it doesn't always open up the suit interface, that when I open a storage hopper, it should always bring up that, rather than you having to open it yourself. I completely agree. And that's actionable. When I open that, it should bring up that too. And it doesn't. And it should. I think. That's actionable. It's also minor. It has to be specifically a complaint about a single interaction on a single panel. It has to be. Otherwise, you might as well just say, you know, I didn't like the film. What, all of it? The acting, the special effects, the music, the length, every single plot point and second of it. It's not something you could ever use. But the problem is that people say, oh, I don't like the UI, and expect me to magically fix the UI like it's a single entity, and it's not. People constantly complain about everything. Subnautica, they're struggling with the UI, going, oh god, how has this game sold so many? Like, it was obviously designed for VR and didn't work in VR and didn't really work anyway. But we've been through 3 iterations of the UI with that. Nothing we do people like. I don't like the UI, don't get me wrong, but I don't generally care. I'm looking to moving more towards diegetic UI. More towards having just watching a machine do its thing and being able to ascertain from that. It's a bit like asking me, when you eat your lollipop, when you eat your ice cream, what is it you don't like about the stick? Like, the stick is just there so I can eat my ice cream. I don't actually care about the stick, I care about the ice cream. Here's the ice cream. That's the stick. I don't really care about the stick. I care about, does the game tell me everything I need to know? I don't care about the fact that Icon is slightly pixelated. We spent a full third of our development on UI, and people just compare us to, let's say, Minecraft. And it's very hard to get through to people. This game is massively more complicated than Minecraft. This is an enormously complicated game. And as such, we have a lot of information to convey to the player. I still get complaints about the bottom left pop-up. So anytime you do anything, there's a little bottom left pop-up that tells you as much nerdy information as is hopefully useful for you, and also tells you the controls. And I get complaints going, oh, you keep telling me stuff. It's like, well, yeah, but you don't know. If someone was to sit down with me and from the beginning of the game to the end of the game go over each part of the UI in turn, yeah, it's the only old style UI thing left, I think. Every single part in turn, that's a feasible solution. Saying I don't like the UI, it should be changed, is absolutely not. And then you get issues that people say, oh, you should be able to. So when you've got the UI system, having to explain to people, they want to click and click, shift drag, control drag, alt drag, multi-select in both directions over the network, and it's hard to explain to people that what they want is something that Windows does, and Windows took 20 years to implement all those features. Like, control clicking into a storage hopper is an enormously complicated thing to be able to do. There's so much code over potentially four threads and 2 computers. Again, I'd love to be able to click in there. I would. It's not that simple. But just for the sake of argument, I can go click and click and drag and let go. And I have to detect both of those states. That's the other thing. Time. Todd redid the UI. It's redone the UI twice due to feedback now. And we are talking about months and months and months of thing. That UI there is generated in code. That's part of the problem. Fallback, it's very hard to make it look good. Advantage, you can actually have modded UI. And have you seen modded Minecraft's UI? How come I can't get away with it and they can? The orange and blue theme's alright, I guess. I'm not a fan of this gradient look. I'm not a fan of those. But the top UI in the corners, and oh my god, the amount of complaints when we put it at the top, I can't see now. It's blocking my way all the way. I'm like, dude, what are you running around? Are you running around like this? We will be reducing some of the information. There's no point in showing the temperature anymore, internal, external. That was a overly complicated. No point in having the temperature and a bar and a gradient and the temperature actually there. 2 pop-up panels for fill bars. You've got the left-hand one for combat and the right-hand one tends to be for progression. So top left shows my current power. The awaiting scene means that I haven't connected Steam, so I don't know what language I'm running in. Underneath, it's the power usage. Awaiting Steam, that's my health. Top right is the GPS. Those bars, as far as you're concerned, are there for pretties. And then whether or not I've got the lamp on and the jetpack. There are so many panels in the game. And I'd like to get information about them one by one by one. So right now, I have 4 empty slots on my hotbar. Makes sense that they do not list 0. It would also make sense for them to have a better drop shadow. Yeah, that should probably have a drop shadow so it's more readable over that. Why do you need to know the actual values though? There are only 3 values in the game. Too hot, too cold, and just right. Fire flashing, it's too hot. Can you see the cold flashing? It's too cold. No, my point is I'm providing a solution, you're providing a problem. This is not my area. I do the programming. This is Todd. I don't do the UI. Todd does the UI. I think my problem with the UI is it does not spark joy to me. Lowercase there and uppercase here. That's because that is data driven. So that's actually pulled out and that's also translated. That's another thing. All of this has to go through translating and stuff. I don't know. The thing is, there's no point in writing the word item info. It's almost really no point in putting materials. It's freaking obvious what that is. But yeah, probably those can be made a little bit bigger. Individual tiny bits of feedback. Now don't forget, you're giving feedback. I'm not necessarily sure what you're stating makes any difference whatsoever. If I get rid of item info and materials, does that make the game more understandable, less understandable, prettier, uglier? If I have looked at other games, I do look at other games, and so many times I look at other games going, well, this is even worse. Satisfactory's UI is fucking awful. Subnautica's awful. Terraria's, oh my god. Like, Terraria is insane. Like, its UI is just insane. The crafting system, it's a big single scrolly list. Scrolls at a slow speed. You can't even whoosh through it. When you say better, that is a very cool term. And I completely disagree. I'd say it's fucking awful. We've got rewards with arrows and a box on them. 3 things with a tick. That thing's orange. Don't know what these are. These tabs. Have we got 1, 2, 3 nested tabs at the top? That's not better. There is no way that's better. I don't know what this is. It says the hub in tiny letters. It might have improved. Again, that's not the point. But that is Satisfactory's UI. Satisfactory is gorgeous as well. It's so nice. What's this one? Again, I haven't really played Satisfactory. I'm purely commenting on what I can see. Like here we've got 1, 2, 3, 5 fonts, I think. They were an overclock production. And again, here, we've got a craft button. Excellent. Then we have a bar with input-output written on it that doesn't fit in the dialogue. The game is very pretty. And that is what is making people forget a lot of the shit in it, is the game is very pretty. And yeah, here we go. So people are actually suggesting different UI. Great, that's better because you get more on a page. I assume you drag them in there. Better is a value judgment, not a fact. Fortresscraft, I would say our research dialogue is uglier, but better. And I would say better is more important than pretty. They felt that was good enough at the time. That's the important thing there. When you bring up a research dialogue, it shows you what it is, what it does. You've got flavor text, what it unlocks. You have a whole bunch of information. One power cord charger requires this, and it tells you what it does. It tells you what you get. You can also then go to further help, and it will tell you, well, not very much in that case. In this case, this tells me nothing. I'm assuming it will cost me 50 of those, 50 of those, 50 of those. I can't really tell because it's covered up half the icon. I don't know what that unlocks. Overclock production. I can guess from the name, but it gives me no information. I don't care how pretty. It doesn't look pretty. I don't care how pretty that looks. Information is far more important than how it looks on console at all. You can't have that. You can't do that on console. Our UI is valid for console release. This UI is not, and that's really important. The reward section is what it unlocks. Right, overclock buildings in Power Shard. If I click on those, not like that, if I click on those, does it tell me what they are? Am I supposed to guess? Remember, people tell me they want a tech tree in Fortresscraft. I point out it kind of is one, kind of explains. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it looks ugly. I don't think it gives very good information, but it is quite clean. Again, I can't comment on the usability. I've not played Ark. It's quite pretty. It does a very bad job of using colour. I mean, that's a good example there of that is not allowed on console. It's too small. You've got to have, it's a 16-point font. I forgot the rule is. Text must be readable at a distance of 10 feet on a 28-inch screen, I think it is. The original font? Yeah, I guess that's the old one again. That font's horrible. It's white, and then with a black outline, and then with a glow around it. Quite hard to read. Again, on console, you can't ship it like that. That's probably a lot of why they had this rework. This is perfectly fine console UI, apart from the, ooh, that's naughty. Let's think of safe area. That's the other thing. Very few people actually have to deal with safe area worries other than game developers. You said the colours you said the colours are all within the same histogram range. Yeah, but the problem you've got there is you've just got a lot of blue. So right now, is Survivor Profile and Tribe Manager, are they new dialogues I go to? Are they tabs that will open up? I don't know. L3 for Survivor Profile, R3 for Tribe Manager, and both of them for Clear Craft Queue. Fortresscraft has an awful lot of UI. A lot of it I plan to remove. So, oreextractors and Fortresscraft have got a UI. They were one of the first, if not the first machines, I think we... Well, I hope you don't play Diablo 3 then, because, and I hope you're sitting down. The Xbox One version of Diablo 3 is the best one. I know it's not what you expected, but it genuinely is. I played Diablo 3 going, oh cool, I'll play on console, I like Diablo 3, get sat to my sofa, and it's the best one. Like, it really is. The UI is great. The quick bars are great. You can play 4 players on one screen if you so want to. You can, you get HDR. You get 10-bit rendering. You don't get that on PC. You get dynamic resolution. And it's like, why is this the best version? What's going on? Does diegetic UI count as UI? Yes, but I feel overall the diegetic UI in Fortresscraft is pretty good. It's not necessarily very neat. For example, now, we can probably rework that with a new UI system. So I would like to improve the oreextractors. Yeah, as I said, yeah, because there's a radio buttons, and that's a toggle button. The icons aren't centered. I don't like the gradient fill. I don't like the way the cyan stuff at the top. I don't like the bounce. I don't like the vacuum thing at all. That will probably go. This is not generated as a bespoke UI. I wish it was. We can make it look great. It's generated like this, so mods can generate UI, and that's really important. Well, we kind of have one. It's the beacon. Yeah, well, Astroneer has entirely diegetic UI, which sounds brilliant, and it's great, and it was great until Astroneer, again, another game that blatantly plays Fortresscraft and takes inspiration from it. They were obviously trying to copy some of our power systems, but because they have this beautiful, oh, it's beautiful. Their UI is perfect. It's so good, and it really doesn't work unless you're doing a very simple game. Fortresscraft fundamentally has issues with the UI because of its complexity. To a degree, inherent issue. Terraria, again, very cutesy, simple game. When it starts to get a bit more complicated, the UI just seems to start breaking down. One of the plans that we are doing is getting rid of the UI entirely for oreextractors. Dave, I completely agree with you. I hope you're still there, because whilst I agree with you, at the same time, you're wrong. You said it should only show you the temperature when it's important. I agree. How would we do that? So how would I hide them? If I hid them, a big nothing. I like UI that goes away when you don't need it. You can see there are two hidden bits of UI, one across there, one across here, and they pop up when you need it. Wouldn't be that hard to do a similar thing for the warning sensors? Everybody just shouted at me when I said I wanted to remove the actual numbers. I don't need hot or cold at all. I don't need that at all, because then you've got the heat and the cold indicators. It might be we don't show the temperature at all. We would have to significantly rework how the UI looked in order to support that. So this was the older UI, and again, this is just how we had it, the hot and the cold. But right now, it's not complaining at me because I'm not cold, I'm not hot, because I've got power. But I am in a cold place. So when I run out of power, the external temperature stays the same, but the internal temperature changes. How do I communicate that to the player? Yeah, so you can see the cold one's lighting up. Show me up, I'm not doing it. There's kind of two mechanics. One of them tells me that it's cold, one of them tells me that I'm cold. So as you move towards the cold caverns, you are in a very cold area. Your suit, if it's upgraded, can cope with the cold area, but if you run out of power, the external temperature hasn't changed, but the internal temperature has changed. No Man's Sky, it doesn't make any sense, because you resist toxic and then suddenly you don't resist toxic anymore, and then you stand somewhere and you start resisting toxic. So this isn't UI, this isn't UX either, this is just pure information. You do not interact with this whatsoever. It's a dialogue box at most. I'd also worry about having taken away information the player needs to know. I would really like to know that my power is being used a lot because it's cold, and if I don't do something about it quite soon, I'll be out of power, and when I get out of power, it will be bad. There was already a concept of, there's your warning, that shows the environment. It doesn't show you're having problems. Currently my power drain's 1.2. If I stand on a torch, my power drain will probably go up. So notice my power drain is currently 1.2, and it's blue, it's cold. Now it's red, because it's hot. There are full screen effects for when you are suffering from hypothermia. At that point, you're probably already screwed. So down here, I don't have the ability to stay alive. We've got a cold thing flashing. My power usage is up to 400, 500 per second. The hypothermia kicks in. I don't have the equipment to be down here, which is why it's so severe. I teleport down to the magma caverns. I'd also like to make more of light and dark. Fortresscraft does not look good when it's flatly lit, but it looks good when lit well. Show me one screenshot of any game with ray tracing in it that looks in any way significantly different to a game without ray tracing. Something like the tool gets frosty, no one would notice it. I've now got, in the game, fluid, and the fluid is a lot better than it was. Not perfect, not done yet, but it's a lot better than it was. I mean, if Unity gets ray tracing support, I might add it. What is it you're expecting? The only thing I've seen that's impressive with ray tracing support was in Tomb Raider, where the penumbra on the torch got fuzzier the further away from the shadow casting source. So see, I have this effect to show me that it's too hot and I'm too hot inside. Very nice tech demo, almost as good as shaders. Maybe you missed the bit where I said you can do it all with shaders. Like, you've got planar reflections there, cool, and nothing else of note in that shot. Am I supposed to be impressed with any of this? I mean, that's quite nice, but I don't think that's ray tracing, that's just specular. Is this the best they could show? These are really bad examples. I don't know what I'm supposed to be seeing with this. I really don't. The thing is, I'm planning on implementing some rendering techniques in Fortresscraft 2 that probably aren't compatible with ray tracing for more speed. But yeah, we already now have support for specular lighting and per pixel specular maps, which we didn't have in Fortresscraft 2. It's cold. I'm out of power. It's beginning to get cold. You can do full screen space reflections. It's just expensive. It's still less expensive than ray tracing. You don't need specific hardware for it. Things we've got. That gets us 90% of the way towards what ray tracing would give me. Now, it would be awesome if I could see a reflection of the oreextractor. That'd be good. I would really like that. I will almost definitely be nerfing the torch lights quite heavily in the game. Torches are planned to be temporary and electric lights will be permanent. There's a whole bunch of... I want to make light a bit more of a resource in Fortresscraft 2 because the game looks best when it's dark. So one of the tech features I was most proud of... I like this because it's a clever effect and I did it in a way that's really cheap. Do something with ray tracing. I'd like to do a game that is ray tracing, looks like classic ray tracing. I used to do ray tracing. I have been a member of the real-time ray tracing group, there's not many of us, for a great number of years. A graphics technique like RTX, that's just a graphics technique. You can't, for a long time, have a game that relies on it. Big reason, not everyone's got it. Do you remember the Borderlands PhysX stuff? I don't think anybody ever used it again, because you could only do it on video cards at the time. This is a good example of what I would call diegetic UI. That's showing me what it thinks is wrong. And it's showing me there, it's got an issue with that block. But yeah, as I say, I don't really know whether or not graphical improvements like this are obvious enough to most players. DjArcas suggested a mob that can only be seen in reflections. Now that, sir, is $1 million idea. If only everybody had RTX. That'd be awesome. A VR game, a multiplayer VR game, where it's everyone is a vampire, so you can only see them, so they can't see the reflections, and you've got like a hand mirror, so you have to, it's like Spy Party, but with vampires and reflections. Oh, that's brilliant! I love it. Oh, but everybody who plays it needs to have RTX. Yeah, well, maybe in 5 years' time. But yeah, you can see my little time reflection of. I can update these reflections in real time. It's a little bit expensive, and there's no point to it, so I haven't bothered. But it can be done. But I really, really like how that looks. So they update randomly. One of the things I was thinking about doing was working on the new oreextractors, which will require a new model from Andy, will require some new textures from Todd. Fundamentally, I would like to be able to remove all of the UI from the oreextractor. How many of you know that an oreextractor shows you how much power it's got in a diegetic fashion? That means not in UI. That one's got power, that one hasn't. I doubt very many people have actually noticed. That's the problem with diegetic stuff, is you don't notice. And when you notice it, it's cool. It's actually really useful. As you upgrade the drill heads, have you noticed the visuals change on them? The lasers have a diegetic UI, and that's one of the things I am the most happy that I implemented into Fortresscraft, is the diegetic lasers. Really, really happy that I implemented those. And it didn't take very long, and I'm a little bit sad I didn't implement it much sooner, and I apologise for that. So like the super digs, forget the rainbow cloud, like that bit's quite good. The effect that happens there, it's even color coded. The little chunks that come off are of the material you cut up. That was so difficult to do. Chatting last night about improving the research, the breadcrumbing is showing the player in a better way how they can get stuff. Unfortunately, Todd used the classic bad example, which is, oh, how would a new player know how to research cryo defenses? It's like, well, you don't, because you don't know about cryo defenses until a long way into the game, because otherwise you're overwhelming the player. This is a good example of a piece of research that definitely overwhelms the player. I did have one guy, he said he didn't know how to start the game, and I was like, oh, well, you have to use the CPH. Oh, it doesn't tell me how. I was like, oh, but it should do. Can you send me a screenshot? So he sent me a screenshot. At that point in the game, in 3 places, 3, maybe 4 separate places on the screen, it said, press E. And I just circled his screenshot 3 or 4 times and sent it back. It's like, oh, I didn't see them. And at that point, I was like, dude, you thought there was an issue, posted on the forum there was an issue. One of the devs went, really? Are you sure? It should say. You then posted took a screenshot, posted it, and never at any point did you actually manage to notice or read any of the text on the screen. It's a similar thing with the help. The help system in Fortresscraft is really good. And I can tell you for nothing, the help system is why Direwolf plays the game. Because he was playing it, and then it said, look at the help menu, and he was just like, holy shit, he says, everything is in the help, all of it, every single gun, all of it. It is generally excellent, and I think a very small number of players ever bother to look at it. It's also if I am here, I look at that machine and I press H, it will show me what I'm looking at and what I've got in my hotbar. If I'm in the inventory screen and I press H, it will show me what I have highlighted. If I'm in the crafting interface and I press H, nothing happens. Oh yes, because I click on question mark, it will show me. It always brings up help that's context sensitive and relevant at all points. And I don't know what I can do to persuade people, new players, to trust it a bit more. Its help files will also have new versions downloaded off the internet every time you run the game. I can update the help constantly, and it also means someone else can update the help without me. Because it is important that this system is understandable and useful for all players. Help menu, all of these are context sensitive as well. I think this one disappears when you've done them all. That always appears, and I think these always appear as well. Color coding can help. Yeah, I've had people complain about the help system, and if I poke them, they go, oh, I don't really bother using it. It's like, oh, well, then it's not going to be a good help system if you don't use it. I'd like to improve the help system. Mad Vandal uses a community plugin of some sort for the UI for that. I looked into implementing that system into Fortresscraft, but it wasn't very integratable. I always try and accept community input. I mean, if someone says to me, hey, I'm going to rewrite all the UI, I'll be like, yeah, no, you're not. But if they say, hey, I can improve the UI, I will absolutely give them the chance to. I found with a lot of people who decide they're going to help, they do a bit, and then after a while they realise this game is a lot of work. That's what I wanted to do. I'd like to have the game a bit more darker, because that looks great. That's significantly better than how Fortresscraft looked as well. We don't want people to say, oh, it just looks like Fortresscraft. We want to say it looks like Fortresscraft, but not saying it just looks like Fortresscraft. But I'm going to pull it down off the internet in real time. So it should mean we can update the translation without having to update the game. Gaining new patrons is at least as important as keeping the existing ones. And I would say is the most likely we're going to get new patrons via shiny new graphics. You know, redress the UI. All that matters is it doesn't look like Fortresscraft. If you A/B any pair of screenshots from Fortresscraft Phoenix, it's obvious, I hope, that they're a different game. Spiderbot will almost definitely make it into Fortresscraft. I doubt he'll be significantly different. He's just kind of become a staple of the Fortresscraft games. I am planning on implementing a bunch of companion bots. This was a plan for Fortresscraft that never made it in, very much to rewrite a lot of the networking to support Steam networking. That has the added likelihood we will get a lot more people playing multiplayer. Therefore, some of the multiplayer balance stuff that I wanted to put in should be implemented. One of those was not to give everybody an Arthur. 20 people into a server, you have a massive advantage over a one-player game. Arthur, your specialist all-round bot. You have a solar bot and a power bot and a lifter bot and a carry bot. For Sarah, hey Sarah, she follows you around. If she gets stuck, it is your responsibility to unstick her. Player making better bases, but it means you can't just like leap down weird spiral corridors. She'll get stuck. No, she's unlike Arthur. She's not flipping through stuff. She doesn't. Yeah, she can't work out how to get around it. Yeah, exactly, DjArcas. That's exactly the point. But in order to get Sarah to carry stuff, you have to sacrifice your Arthur. Player will go, right, I'm going down to the cold cavern. I need to make sure I've got my suit heater, a bunch of power packs, and I need to do this, this, and this. What actually happened is that people would run into the cold cavern, die, and then complain the game was too hard. Fundamentally, plays against one of the pillars of Fortresscraft. When I played Minecraft, and I did play it a bit, not very much, one of the things I hated was the fact you don't need a base. You can carry around with you a furnace, some coal, a workbench, and when you want to craft something, you just put the workbench down and just craft it and then carry on. So one of the goals of Fortresscraft, like Terraria and unlike Starbound, is your base is very important. It is extremely important you continually go back to your base, rather than just go, oh, well, I'm in the middle of this cave, let's do a bunch of high-tech work. Lasers, etc., to drop efficiency, and you had to sit there and align them. So sometimes, in a large multiplayer game in Fortresscraft, there isn't enough to do. And I wanted to try and give players something to do. Essentially mini-games to improve their base marginally. I mean, probably what I'll do is I'll make CCBs twice as fast and just make it all the frozen packs I've used twice as much resources. Please, everyone, if you are interested in discussing Fortresscraft 2, please read the design document, because it quite clearly goes over this. And if you've read it and you've forgotten it, well, read it again. It's a great read. Thrills, spills, action, adventure, fighting, true love, giants. I was going to say dragons, but that was wrong. How do I still allow automation of the drill heads? The head drops off it and you replace it. Should I only allow automated replacement of drill heads from hoppers? If I do that, it's going to be a bit odd if you have to run down there, pop a storage hopper next to it, pop the machine in there, wait for it to take it out, and then run away with the storage hopper again. What happens if you dig up a passive head, a worn out head? Okay, so there's our current setup. Alright, so here's our waypoint machine. Look, it says tin ore. Isn't that cool? There you go. Not a lot of people seem to know about that feature. It's very cool. It's not very difficult to pop it next to the ore extractor. I may even create a specific machine that's modular. Implemented, but it was too complicated and not understandable. I am moving back towards a similar thing, but in a more understandable way. So you had to have the hydrojet cutter on top of a manufacturing plant in order for it to craft the suit upgrades. But if you have not done that before, I highly recommend it. It's updated irregularly, but it shows through walls like that. Then you place your new motor. The motor bolts onto the back of the drill of that. The machine now works quicker. It should be possible, I will have to ensure it's possible, that we can still offload to oreextractors to hoppers anywhere. So a hopper should be perfectly valid to go there, for instance. So we're essentially making it much more like the trenches, because the trenches are cool. It's really good fun to build the trenches the way they are. Then you want to add a drill head. Remember, the goal here is not to just do stuff for the hell of it, is to think about ways to add diegetic UI and to remove pop-up panels. Motor, and we have our hopper, and then we have our cutter head. That's the plan, like that. It's 3 machines in a row that bolt together to make a much cooler machine. So you don't open up the extractor and place the drill in the UI, you simply place the drill in front of it. When the drill runs out, it will drop back to a generic graphic. It will also stop spinning if you're stuck. So you put your things there, and the robot arm will upgrade it. This breaks. Player digs it up. Player does not get an item back. Oh, now I have to reuse the whole thing, or run all the way back to the base and craft another cutting head. So I'm going to have to give them back a generic cutting head, aren't I? It's an empty cutting head, and all the other ones upcraft from it. If we have an idea and there are 1,000 questions about the idea, I cannot implement it until I have 1,000 answers. Because question number 702 might not have an answer, or the answer might not be, you can't. We have a number of options. We have a number that the oreextractor cutter arrives early, and the player can place it. Another one is that the player has to place it. So this means that players will start off with a 2-unit long extractor, upgrade to a 3 one. I think that's quite cool. Extractor can just have an error, like a hologram going, you need to put one here. They don't have to use them, but for compact setups, you might not want to. There's the motor upgrade that never happened. The third option is when you don't have a head in front of it, it simply spawns a drill head that sticks out 1 meters. The middle part actually does all the work. Because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, you know that thing the game's already got? You should add that. I do have a special amused part of my life when people do that. So these are the trencher motors. And then what you do is you attach a head. So this is the tier 1 head. Tier 1. That's the tier 2 head. Yeah, it's essentially an adaptation of this concept. It's fair to sort of retrofit the cool ideas from the end game into the beginning game. It's only down to the patronage that I am able to continue developing this game at this point. And I want to continue working on Fortresscraft. It still saddens me that I was forced to stop development of Fortresscraft Evolved. Was lack of money. It was not lack of ideas, it was not lack of time, it was not lack of enthusiasm, it was lack of money. Research stuff goes here. Probably to try and spread out the information on these screens a little bit. I can't think of an inventory system in any game I like. Diablo's one on console is probably one of the least annoying, but it's still annoying. Terraria's is awful. Borderlands winds me the fuck up. It's just those 5 things at the bottom that fill up. When you sort something, everything is color-coded by type, and I quite like that. You should not be using your inventory for anything. You shouldn't be carrying anything in your inventory, the tiniest amount of things. You have 80 slots in your inventory and 70 slots on your hotbar. If we put F8 in, we could actually just have your hotbar be your inventory. Have the game looking better sooner rather than later, so we can have trailers and screenshots. And the crowd, are there any factory games on console? Victoria has done enormously successfully despite some stupid decisions. For example, deciding to step lock multiplayer. Honestly, I don't think Fortresscraft has much user-friendliness issues. It may have some type of issues with not explaining something to the player, but nearly always, as long as the player spends just 2 fucking seconds looking at stuff, it's there. The information is there. I get this a lot, actually. People going, oh, you should update the wiki. This game's shit, the wiki's not up to date. I'm like, that's a community thing. You're telling me you want to reserve this area for ores or whatever. I mean, you can carry less of other stuff. Then we could have the right number of slots for just ores, stopping you carrying more ores. I think I'm going to have to enforce placing them in a 3x1. Should that be a valid setup? It's probably not too bad. I mean, the ore extractor itself will no longer auto-rotate. That will go. For some reason you build that, it will automatically rotate. I'm also not going to allow storage hoppers anywhere other than behind it. Storage hopper. So it actually shows where the storage hopper should go. So it's technically a 4x1 machine. I rather like that. I haven't started on the Steam networking for Fortresscraft yet, but I believe it's quote-unquote not that bad. Realistically, I will not be doing this in a hurry. That is a long and complicated thing. Sweet! Put that there. It might do that. It doesn't know which way round. I think I will allow vertical setups on this because they'll be quite awkward. Because then you'll have that, and then you'll have that, and that has to line up with the floor because you can't do vertical conveyors. I'm pleased with that though. I will push out a build for patrons. If any of you have any idea how I can grow my community and all of that stuff, let me know. I do get a few hundred views. I have no idea how many people only watch for 10 seconds, but if you do watch it, let me know. Let me know if there's anything you need to know. Interact with me. I like that. So cheers for watching, guys. I will see you all on the flip side. Bye for now.